Make this a truly unlimited service, Tamkens can prioritize some specific runes and items, since you can't focus on everything at once. But what if you could? Today we are tackling a different kind of complete optimization, ultimate ability haste build, or as the creative naming theory crafters call it, UltMaxxing. We all love efficiency. It's the reason we watch YouTube while we eat, but in League of Legends efficiency is usually a myth. I had this grand idea that if I wanted to break the game with pure ultimate cooldown reduction, I should pick the champion with the lowest base ultimate cooldown in the entire game, Cassidy. At rank 3, his Reedwalk sits at the tiny 2-second base cooldown. I spent an entire game building every single ultimate ability haste item in the shop, sweating over the keyboard, trying to force his ultimate down to 0.7 seconds. It sounded genius on paper. In reality, it is completely impractical. You are spending thousands of gold on weird hybrid items just for a 1-second difference. And the worst part, the items don't provide anywhere near enough mana to sustain the scaling cost of spamming his heart. So instead of trying to optimize something that's already short, I realized we need to do the exact opposite. We need a massive, game-changing cooldown gap. We need a build that guarantees a full ultimate cooldown reduced, turning a 2-minute macro spell into your average basic ability. To pull this off, the blueprint has to be split into two very distinct categories. The first category is straight ultimate ability haste. These are the non-negotiables. We are talking about experimental hexblade, malignance, feed hunter bolts, and Zekes. To top it off, we lock in the ultimate hunter rune. This is the core engine. Every single one of these items provides raw, unadulterated haste targeted directly at your Archie. The second category is what I like to call the bonus reduction on takedown department. This features the item Axiom Arc and the rune Axiom Arcanist. And let's just take a moment to appreciate Riot's design team here, naming the item Axiom Arc and the rune Axiom Arcanist. Truly, the naming designer at Riot was feeling incredibly original and inspired that day. What this secondary combo does is simple. It doesn't just give you flat stats, it cuts a percentage of your current remaining ultimate cooldown when you score a takedown. If you put both of these categories together, you aren't just playing a normal ranked anymore. You just queued a game of URF. But abilities weird means 99% of the roster of champions will actively troll their team just by buying the items. We need the perfect guinea pig. No, I'm not talking about my teammates. Naturally, my first thought went straight to Karthus. The longest ultimates in the game are usually global utility spells, things that teleport or dash a champion across the entire map. But Karthus is different. He matches those absurdly high top tier cooldowns on a global combat ultimate that actively hits every single person on the entire enemy team, no matter where they are hiding. He should be the ultimate dream candidate for an UltMaxxing setup. But then you look at his actual scaling. Karthus' kit is incredibly linear. He's coded to build pure raw ability power, and if he doesn't, his damage completely drops off a cliff. Forcing him to buy this setup, which includes almost every single stat in the game, from attack speed to armor and MR, is like trying to find the spatula item in a normal game. Sure, you have a lot of numbers on your screen, but none of them actually do anything useful. He would have zero practical outcome, leaving your teammates stranded in a 4v5 while you press R to deal about 12 damage, and that is rounded up. Karthus is out of the question. So I started hunting down other high cooldown combat ultimates on champions who could actually survive buying a giant soup of random hybrid stats. Cho'Gath almost made the cut. His Fist is an incredible combat ultimate and it comes with a massive bonus of infinitely stacking his maximum health. If you prioritize the build correctly, Cho'Gath can actually use a decent variety of stats. But here is the problem. His ultimate base cooldown is already too small. There is no real build value or satisfaction in min-maxing it. And let's be honest, we are focusing on finding the absolute best build holder in this video, not trying to win a competition for the biggest champion model size on the screen. Cho'Gath is out. Next up was Sylas, and he was also almost a spectacular pick. He utilizes a massive variety of stats effectively, and getting to steal multiple ultimates in a single teamfight sounds like big combo value. But his ultimate cooldown is already low by itself, especially once you hit the late game, blinding him first pick only to build entirely around his ultimate and leave your entire game plan up to whether the enemy team decides to draft good options for you is a massive gamble. In fact, it's pretty much the exact same Gampa Riot is pulling off with what feels like every single legendary skin they release lately. I am not risking my match history on those odds. Silas is also out. Then we looked at Udyr. He has the ultimate hybrid quirk, where his ultimate is technically his passive, making him one of the best users of a plethora of different stats. But Udyr already has an ultimate reducing mechanic built straight into his native kit. Adding all of this extra haste on top of it kind of defeats the point and yields diminishing returns. Not to mention, managing this specific hybrid playstyle correctly, constantly changing up the priority of each item and its individual ability every single game to get maximum value is way too complicated. We want an elegant, easy to pull off strategy here, especially when I consider the average mechanical rank of this channel's viewers. No offense, but let's keep it simple. And hey, if you want to keep your own match history simple while I continue to do the heavy lifting and break the game for you, don't forget to like and subscribe if you are enjoying the video. It only takes 2 seconds and it stops Riot from matching you with mechanically challenged teammates. Allegedly. Which brings us to the final pick, the true winner of the UltMaxxing challenge, the man from Brazil himself, Mordekaiser. Mordekaiser possesses one of the most oppressive combat ultimates in video game history. He creates a completely inescapable 1v1 zone that is basically a guaranteed kill if you know what you are doing. Plus, he gets the extra bonus of keeping a percentage of the enemy's core stats as a little souvenir after they die. His ultimate perfectly fits our high base cooldown requirement. At rank 1, it sits at an agonizing slow 2-minute timer, but when you apply the full UltMaxxing build, the cooldown drops significantly to well under a minute. The difference in your gameplay loop is immediately noticeable. And unlike Arthus, Mordekaiser's ultimate doesn't possess any weird AP damage scaling. It's a pure combat stat check tool. This means he loses absolutely zero value when we build a wide variety of different items instead of just stacking one single stat. To make this build work without griefing your lane, we are going to delay Action Mark as much as possible. It belongs to the bonus reduction category we talked about earlier, and since lethality is the least practical stat on Mordekaiser, we leave it for the very end of the game where we just want a reset mechanic. The rest of the hybrid stats actually complement his kit beautifully. Some people might look at the build and think that the attack damage from experimental hexplate is completely going to waste, but ever since the balance changes to his Q damage, buffing up his AD ratios, it has actually become a surprisingly viable alternative option. Combined with the item's massive attack speed passive upon casting your ultimate, it turns you into a juggernaut. Which brings us to the next item, Windhunter Bolts. This item's attack speed profile perfectly suits the native playstyle of almost every single Mordekaiser player in existence. And what is that playstyle? Completely ignoring every single person in a teamfight, plus ulting the enemy ADC, missing every single skill shot, and still winning the 1v1 by simply auto-tackling them to death while they try to run away. Now, as an ADC player myself, this opinion might sound a little bit biased, but it is my video, so I make the rules. The rest of the item pathing is pretty self-explanatory. We focus heavily on the tank-oriented item first, using its passive to ensure we don't get kited while inside our own ultimate arena. Only after we have established our safety do we transition into the AP components to round out the damage. When you pilot this setup correctly in the late game, the potential is unmatched. You completely wrap the fundamental rules of a 5v5 teamfight. By the time the enemy team realizes they have been fighting 4v4 without their carry the entire game, their nexus is already crumbling. Your playstyle now focuses on this new unlocked mechanic. You ult their strongest member, secure the takedown, and the action reduction instantly primes your cooldown to do it all over again. You can practically guarantee that the enemy ADC is going to be spending significantly more actual playing time sitting in Brazil than they will on the actual Summoner's Rift.